How parts work. All right. So as growing up, as children, we have this feeling of compassion toward life. We are so happy, joyful, and we're welcoming all the experiences. And this is what we call the self. The self is our pure energy. This is where our soul sits. Um, this is where our real identity is. It just, this is our genuine self. Like it's the self is so pure, so creative, centered, aligned, and feel compassion towards others and the world, welcoming experiences. The self is not defensive. It's not trying to do anything. It lives the here and now. Well, as we go in life, sometimes we are hit with experiences that we are not ready for. Like if, for example, a child of 5 years old and going to school for the first time, and for a child, that's a very intense experience. Hey, my mom took me to this place, very strange place. I don't know this place. I don't know anybody here, and everybody's crying and everybody's loud, and I feel like I'm alone in here, and my mom left. So that's an intense experience for a child. So that might be the first feeling of abandonment. Okay, is my mom coming back? What I'm doing here? Do I have to connect with these people? Can I do this or not? All these fears coming in. And now, what if one of these, little boys come and bully me? What I'm gonna do now? I don't have the tools. Nobody told me what's gonna happen if I get bullied. So there is a part of my psyche, kind of like comes out of my psyche to protect me. So this is the first part that comes out and start protecting. So the part that's protecting, either doing it in an intense way, like, hey, this is a lot of this is a lot of intense emotion. We have to cut down this pain. We have to stop this pain. So maybe if I'm sitting there in the playground, I got bullied, this part gets me angry. So this part is angry, or it gets me aggressive. Hey, don't bully me, and start being aggressive. Or on the other side, this part say, okay, we cannot be aggressive. We have small body here. We can be beaten up. So let's try to be smart. Let's try to manage the situation. And in this case, we call it a manager. So let's try to please this person that is bullying me. It's bullying me. Let's try to be funny. Let's try to make jokes to get my way out of it. So these parts are protecting me in that situation at 5 years old. So sometimes they are very aggressive. It's very as if they're called a firefighter. Okay, I'm gonna go out there and put out this fire. Put out this pain of being bullied. Put out this pain of being like shamed, or because I'm different, or because I look different, because I'm small, because I'm whatever reason. So years later, these parts are still here. So every time I'm sitting at work and getting email, oh, and I feel like there's some kind of, language in the email that I don't like, and I'm an adult now. And guess what? The part is out to protect me again with the choice that was made back then, either with anger, aggressive, or, trying to please this person. I'm trying to manage and be funny and, as a defense mechanism for the situation. The thing is, when we do part work and when we ask the part, how old is that person? Like sitting in his job in his 30s, and how old do you think that person is? And the part would answer like, oh, he's 5 years old, he's 6 years old, he's 7 years old, because they're kind of stuck in time. They're kind of stuck in the situation where they've been developed. So every time this person is faced by a situation, this part coming out in a childish way, because this is a part from a child. So you can tell, like when you talk to that, when you talk to the person in the situation, they'll be like saying things like, "I have no idea why I acted this way. I have no idea why I freaked out. My girlfriend didn't pick up the phone. I acted like I lost my mother. It was just, she was in a meeting, and I know she's in a meeting, and I know that she's busy. Why I'm acting in this crazy way? It's very irrational." And we go back and we found this part, coming from a situation where this person was left by his mother, or he was abandoned, or whatever reason, whatever situation that is. So what we do, we help these parts to come to the present. We help these parts to come to the present and see, hey, this person is not 7 years old anymore. He can handle the situation. He can do well. What do you think you want to do? And most of the part would say, I just want to take a break because this has been a tiring job. I've been defending this person for too long. I just want to go in retirement. I want to go sit on the beach. While while we do that, we reach a part that's called the exile. The exile is the person in the childhood that was feeling that pain. Either that pain was being abandoned, being ignored, being sexually assaulted, being emotionally abused, being whatever happened in that situation. So we need to heal that little boy or girl, or that little person that went into this intense experience, and say, hey, you don't need to be afraid anymore. You don't need to be scared anymore. It's over now. Now you come to the present. Now it's different. Sometimes it takes several sessions to do that, because all these parts have not been trusting the world or the people around. So we need to get the trust of these parts. We take it slow. We take it on the pace of the client, and amazing healing happens after that. Like I had a client who have food disorder, and she was told as a child that she has to entertain all the time. She needs to be the entertainer. She was like the cutest of all the siblings, so for the sake of the family, she lost her dad, and she needed to be funny all the time. She needed to be the to perform some kind of a, of a role that she's not. After we did parts work, she came, and that puts a lot of stress on her. So she would go and binge eat. So she would go, like, after she's done with this entertainment part, she would go, and she was like, okay, I'm very stressed now I have to have my defense mechanism back. I need food. I need to fill like this gap between where I really feel, what I really feel, and what they wanted me to do. So, and the food filled this gap. So after we did part work, and she told me she had this, gathering, the family gathering, and she didn't need to perform at all. She didn't need to entertain anybody. She was just sitting there, not feeling the urge of, telling stories, and as everybody was like, okay, are you okay? What's going on? And she didn't feel to please anybody. And she said, this is the first time in my life I go home and I don't eat after this gathering. I don't eat. I'm not feeling stressed. I went straight to bed, and I had very sound sleep. So this is a brief summary of how parts work.
Shahira, do you find, like you said, it's just a matter of, pretty much making conscious what isn't conscious, right? So having an awareness, like, working with that part, and bringing an awareness of like, wow, this is what I do, and I wasn't aware, and this is where it stems from. And do you find, like you said, they have to come visit you several times, because it could be pretty deep and pretty entrenched, I would imagine. But is that pretty much like the gist of the healing work, is just simply just like, uncovering it and bringing it to the surface, and bringing it to their awareness for them to then transform it?
Part of it, yes, absolutely. You bring to their awareness what happens, and remembering that that's very specific. Sometimes it's a specific incident. Sometimes it's accumulated certain incidents, like growing up for 10 years. This is what used to happen. The thing about it is not just being bringing into the subconscious into the conscious part. Most importantly, listening to these parts, like
Mm,
listening to the inner child. We are here to listen, because this little girl was not listened to. She was not asked if you want to entertain or not. She was just pushed to be entertained. So when we go back in time and listen and let her get this feeling out, and this
mm,
is the core of this practice, you just go there and listen, and just hold the space for these little parts,
mhm.
not just the adult to know what happened. Probably most of the time the adult knows.
Mm, really?
They would, yeah, they would tell you, oh, they used to do that to me. My dad used to, beat me up, or assault me, or they would tell you everything.
Mhm,
They would
mhm.
tell you, but with an adult mind.
Right, right.
So the part is not presented well.
Mhm. Right.
Um,
It's not heard, it's not acknowledged, it's
it's
not
not here. It's not acknowledged. Yes. Um,
right.
so in her mind, yes, that happened. I know this is what causing me to do this and that. This is what we've talked about earlier. They know the causes, but the healing never happened.
Mhm. So then they go in and like listen to the, and lack of better term, inner child, and really hold space for that inner child, which I imagine could be pretty emotional, I'm sure, for a lot of people. Probably lots
Yes,
of tears and lots of, you know,
it's
but I
a,
can see
it's very emotional, and it's very surprising for the adult.
mm,
like
mm-hmm,
like the adult would tell you, okay, like for example, I had somebody call me the other day, and he was like, okay, I feel like I'm being abandoned every time my girlfriend is not on the phone, is not picking up the phone.
mm-hmm,
And I think, Shay, we've talked about this in the meeting, and we had like half an hour conversation over the phone. And this is an adult man, 50 years old. Um, he's like, he's very, actualized or realized in his real life. He has this amazing job. He's very successful. He's very social. And he was like, okay, what's going on? Why every time I call her and she doesn't pick up, and I know she's at work. So, and I'm like, okay, so how did this make you feel? And we went on a journey over the phone for like 20 minutes. And we dropped into that memory where he lost his cat. He abandoned his cat because the family was moving from immigrating to another place. And he started crying.
mm-hmm,
And he started like, you see this adult crying over a cat that he lost. He abandoned the cat, and now the cat is disappointed in me, and I let her down and never let her down. And he was like, that was a child talking. and
right.
and and the adult, and you can tell like how the parts are working in the session. Like the adult would say, oh, why am crying so much? I know that. I know that happened. So why I'm so how did we get here? And then we go back to the child and we do more crying. and,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and so on. And he sent me a message later on. He was like, oh my God, I have no what happened. I have no idea what happened on this half an hour, but I feel great. I
mm-hmm,
feel amazing. So it's all about freeing this part from being stuck in these memories. Um, and the thing is, there is no hypnosis here. um,
mm-hmm.
you just go into the memory. You just follow the protocol. Parts work, it has a protocol, so we follow the protocol, and that's it.
Similar
That
to
is for me.
following the memory.
Sorry, say again.
Is it, so you just follow the memory? Is that part of the protocols? You just follow that memory
No,
and
it has certain questions. Like it has set of questions, and we follow the set of questions, because what
okay.
happened is, um, there are a concept of some blended parts, like, okay, this part is, Kami is very angry, but there is another part saying you have to be polite. So that part preventing this part from talking, so the client stopped talking. They're like, okay, I cannot talk, I cannot, how do you feel? I'm okay. I'm okay. And I'm like, okay, it's not a feeling.
Right.
I actually did have an experience not that long ago that it reminds me of this parts work. And of course, it wasn't hypnosis, but it's interesting because it's quite similar, where I did have something kind of trigger something in that for that inner child to come out and needed to be released that I had no idea was sitting there. But so we, my kids had called me up and they were talking about this dog that they loved on this job site. And they were like, okay, well, we need to do something with it for this dog because we've watched him, we have a relationship with him. And this is the 4th day he's had porcupine quills in his snout. And the owner just didn't care, didn't even look for the dog. It's a street dog. And so I ended up coming to grab the dog after the 4th day because there was like pus coming out and there was, he wasn't going to make it. He hadn't eaten for days. So I grabbed the dog, came to the job site, and I was like, get him in here. So we get him to the vet. They put him to sleep and take all these quills. And what was crazy about this whole situation is I get him home and everything, and a whole big memory starts coming up of my childhood where we had a dog and I was probably about, I don't even know how old I was. Maybe I was 8, 9, somewhere around there. And my dad had left all of his dogs with my grandparents, like growing up, because he moved constantly. He would just, get rid of these dogs. And I realized then, I was like, he treated his kids just like this dogs. Like the feeling of abandonment was huge. Like all of these emotions just started like pouring out. And the way the dog was treated, I felt like that represented our family at that time. I was like, oh my gosh, I was feeling not loved, abandoned. I was pretty good though about I was always that upbeat, positive person, and so I always tried to see things a little bit differently, but to see that this had affected me the way it did. I mean, I could not stop crying. I mean, the tears just kept coming and I was like, where is this coming from? But it was part of all of that feeling of being abandoned, feeling like, just like these dogs, how neglected and all that dog wanted. I remember thinking at 8 and 9, this is going to sound terrible, but this is the reality of it. When there was one dog that was chained up, and he was a dingo dog, and they chained him up inside the shed because he would run off, and we couldn't take him for walks because every single time he got out, he would just bolt, and he was a fast dog, and so they ended up chaining him to this shed, and this shed had no room really for it, so it would pace back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it would get fed, but that was about it. And that dog was there for many years like that. And I remember one day coming home from school and they were like, yeah, Dingo died. And I was just really sad about it because I thought that what a life, what a life. You were chained up in the dark all the time, pacing, and all it wanted was love. My brother would go in at times and he would go in, like, give it some love, and what he told me, and we had just recently talked about it not that long ago, is that all that dog wanted was love. And I was like, that's the same thing. That's all we wanted. That's every one of those people in the house. That's all we wanted, was to be loved. And that's crazy that he was reflecting that and we didn't get it. And so, but it's a good thing for us to realize it now, But even with this stray dog that we brought home as of recent, like that is art. Like, I love that dog. I was like, thank you so much for being here. Like, you just showed me a big part of myself that I needed to look at, that I had not healed from. And I mean, this dog is the loveliest dog. Like, he will come up and he'll take his head and he'll like put it on my head, you know, and just like, you could just feel the love and how he felt cared for. And this is a dog that just wasn't feeling it. But to be able to now see that, there was such healing in that. So I kind of went all over the place, but but I wanted to share that is part of the parts. That's definitely part of the part. So anyway, terrible story, but good story.
That's a beautiful story. I love that. So yeah, and I've been doing parts work with my sister for a year now, and it's taken a year to get through all of the parts. And I've probably worked with 75 either entities, parts, you know, the inner child through her journey. And part of her doesn't want to grow up. So that little girl is still a little girl. And so there's many parts of that, because I run into it all the time, and I work with that part that doesn't want to grow up. And we try to change perception, we integrate, you know, give it another job, you know, that can help her more on this journey now. But my sister is doing amazing. But when my parents divorced, when she was about 10 or 11, and my mom had to go back to work. And so now she became the parent, and she had to get my other little sisters up. The older children had left the house already, but she was in charge of the younger, the three of them. And so there was this parent part of her that was now the parent. But that parent was so angry because the parent wanted to be a kid. She didn't want to have the responsibility of, you know, taking care of the little ones anymore. So we worked with that parent part and, you know, brought her in to tell this part that I've got this. You don't have to worry about this anymore. You know, relieve that parent part of herself from that duty. And we just let her, what do you want to do now? She wanted to go to the beach. She just wanted to play, you know, so we took that parent part to the beach and just let her play. Or we took her to, you know, somewhere, a carnival, you know, and just let that part be free and not have that responsibility. And then once we have worked with that part, we ask if they're ready to integrate back in with her. And after they've had their journey and they've been able to play and been relieved of that, then they're willing to integrate. But I still have one part right now that doesn't want to integrate with her because it doesn't trust her. And so what we do is we take this part and we put it in a safe haven, a safe place. And then we ask, who do you want to be here with you? And so we brought in some angels to help make that part feel comfortable. And until that part is ready to integrate, it's just in the safe haven, having a good time. But whenever we go in and do work, we always check in on that part to see if that part is ready to integrate. But it's not ready yet. And it's been quite a while, and it's just not trusting her yet. But it takes time. And you just, like Shahira was saying, you just have to let them speak. You have to let them know that they're being heard, they're being felt. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I'm going through. You know my suffering. And you know, so it's been really, really powerful to just see all of these parts being integrated back within her. And now she's at the point where I think I shared this with you before, she's off all medication. And whenever one of those parts start to surface, she knows how to communicate with it. So she'll come in and I'll ask her, like in the morning, pretty much every morning she comes in and sits with me, and I'm like, how are you feeling? And I could always tell, you know, she's like, I'm good. Or she'll like, I'm okay. And I'm like, okay, well, what does okay mean? And usually there's another part surfacing. And so then we talk about that. And then I'm like, okay, you know how to do this. So what are you going to tell that part? What do you want to say to it? What do you want to ask it? And so I help walk her through that. And, you know, within a half an hour, she's like, oh my gosh, thank you, Shay. You just helped me. But what I'm trying to do is give her the empowerment to know that she can work with those parts. I mean, we've gone through this for a year, so she understands it. Now, someone who doesn't understand parts wouldn't be able to be at that point and work with their own part yet. But after they've done it for a while, whenever they're starting to feel that way, they can pull that part up and talk to it. You know, what is it you need? Why are you feeling this way? You know, and so, but it really helps that I'm here with her every day, so we can work with that every day, you know. But it's pretty powerful and pretty amazing when you start integrating all these parts, and then they don't feel so fractioned, you know, like they're not so split.
Well, you said something very important that I would like to stress on, that after doing parts work, the client knows how to do it for themselves. And this is very important. This is what I do in my session. Like I always say, if you keep coming here after one year, that means I failed in my job. So the thing is, we teach how this is done, because the psyche knows how to heal itself. It's a matter of knowing where to look, or asking the right question, or going into the right, direction. And part of my work, I do that. Like I teach the client how to do that, how to ask the right question, how to follow, how to heal your own psyche. Because after a while, you need to do that for yourself. It's going to be like, a scrape on your hand. Hey, you go and clean it up and put a band-aid and just, go on with your day. And this is part of what I enjoy doing. Like, okay, now you need to be your own therapist. Now you need to do that for yourself.
Yeah, that was great. Renee, do you have time to share your feedback on parts work? Or?
I do use parts work with people who are trying to change a habit. So smoking, eating, sugar, whatever it is they're trying to change, something small, even though smoking really isn't small. The program that I use is we do an induction. We talk about the different parts of our personality, right? We have this sort of internal struggle. It's just part of who we are. They're part of the whole, such as the creative part of you, the stubborn part of you, the rebel part of you, right? The young you, the current you. So all parts of our personality. And what I do is once we do this induction, first we give the aspect or the habit different aspects. So I give it a color, I give it a feeling, I give it a weight. So we're giving that habit or object of the habit some sort of way to identify it, and we use that then within the parts therapy. And I essentially walk them through a meeting in their mind of the different parts, and I talk to the different parts, and so I literally have them imagine coming into a meeting, all these different parts. Call this part of you that's making you do this, whether it's the young part, the stubborn part, the rebel part. And we're having them imagine in their mind all these parts of themselves that are playing a role in whatever it is that they're doing. Come to this meeting, and I have this discussion with the part about what it's making them do, how it's affecting them, and work to get this agreement with them to work with the other parts to create this change, right? And so then we just go from one part to the next, and we go around this imaginary table and talk about what we're going to do to replace the habit. So we're getting all the parts to agree that we're going to now do things a little bit differently and slowly integrate those changes. And I like doing this as a back-to-back within a week to anchor in, just to keep anchoring in, right? The change and the internal agreement. And it seems to kind of work. People start looking at that habit that they want to change a little bit differently, understanding that they're going to have these internal struggles. I don't go into too much depth on it, but it's a starting point. It's a starting point. And I've had success. I mean, I've had people who smoke leave their cigarettes with me. Like, oh wow, I'm done. I'm done. And so, and then I do incorporate some of the other work that I do with the introspective hypnosis, just the questions and getting them internally to look at things differently. So it's a process. It's never
That's beautiful. And I think that's what's so amazing about the work too, that we all have a different way, a unique way of working through it and working with it. So I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
I want to add a little something since we're talking parts work, and a lot of people come in session and they say I overthink, like I have this overthinking, I cannot stop my mind from going around in loops, even when I'm asleep. I go and I wake up and I'm tired because I was thinking while I was asleep. And guess what? These are your parts talking to each other and conflicting with each other. They don't agree with each other. That's why they keep having this fight. Like if you walk in the street and you find these 20 people fighting, it's gonna be stressful for you. Imagine these 20 people in your brain, in your mind, 24/7. So fighting all the time on every little thing, triggered all the time and every little things, that's very stressful. That creates overthinking. So
Yeah.
parts work help a lot with overthinking because it's kind of like you want to hear all the parts, you want to listen to each part on one at a time and without interruption, without any other part that shut them down. um, you want to listen to every part, and when every part wants to be listened to, like humans, like us humans, like we want to be acknowledged and listened to. So when we enter this into the psyche, all the parts are wanted to be listened to. So when we go in and okay, I said my part and I said my word, and now I can take a break. So this is one less voice in your head.
Yeah.
So yes, so overthinking, like all these parts fighting in your head, let's work with them.
I think that's incredible because so many of my clients that come in, they always said, I can't, I don't know if I can be hypnotized. I don't know if I can go in session because my mind is just going. So that might be kind of fun to work with some parts work before you even do a session,
Yep,
kind of
yep.
get in and talk to each of those pieces. That's a great tool.
Yeah, because most of the time in session when they cannot be hypnotized, some of the parts are not agreeing on what's happening.
Yeah. Wow. I'm going to try that next time I have a
And,
client.
and when you ask, they were like, I don't know what's going to happen. So I need to know first. And
Right. That's beautiful. I love it.
yeah.
Love it.
I've been very lucky. I haven't had any of the parts say no, or I'm not doing
Really?
that.
You're so
I've
lucky,
been very
Renee.
lucky. But you know what? I pre-talk and I tell them we're gonna just it's all about the imagination, because when they're visualizing it in their head, right, they're already creating that change. And so visualizing this meeting of all the parts now coming together, each of them being heard, and then working together, right? They're gonna feel so empowered.
Yeah.
Everybody gets a voice, and then we get to work together and be a team. And it's like, who doesn't want to belong, right?
Yeah.
It's beautiful work. I like it. So it was just one of those things I learned in one of my workshops that I took for general hypnosis work, and I have success with it. So
I can send you guys some materials if you're interested. I can send you some things about that if you like.
so
That'd be great. So you guys, how do you decipher between like an attachment and a part, and how do you handle it?
There
Jimmy,
have
that's a
been
very
times-
that's a very good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, Che, you wanna take this?
Well, I would just say sometimes I just ask, well, are you an aspect of them, or are you an attachment? So sometimes I've actually just physically asked the question, and I'll get told, I'm an aspect of her, or I'm an attachment, and then I take it off that way. But I think there's a lot of different ways that you can tell just by conversation with it. And then, I don't know, Shahir, how do you deal with that? What do you do?
I do the same like you. I ask, are you part of X and Y, Z energy, or you have your own energy? And they were, and then we go into a conversation and ask more questions, and it turns out, yeah, that's an attachment. That's not a part.
Yeah.
And then if it's an attachment, do you then use like the IH protocols and the past life therapy protocols? Okay.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes, they could be sneaky and they don't want to reveal themselves, right? So they could say that they're an aspect. Right?
They can lie, of course, but not for too long.
Yeah, because in conversation, you're gonna feel it out. You're gonna know, and your intuition is huge. Anyway, if you're doing this work, you have great intuition, because a lot of times you're reading between the lines anyway. So, but you're gonna be able to sense where it fits in this person's world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fascinating. That was really interesting, you guys. That was awesome.
Yeah, but that's a good question, Jamie. Like one of my friends, a practitioner friend, he had a client, and she's been doing parts work for quite some time, and she came to him, and he found out that was an attachment. So yes, so it helps a lot when people do this and do that at the same time, because you can tell the difference.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't imagine that. Does parts work? Is there a aspect to it where it talks about attachments? Like, does it train you guys how to deal with attachments, or is that not part of it?
Well, not really. Like when you check out books for the founder, Dick Schwartz, and Derek Scott, and all these people who started this kind of work, they haven't mentioned it, but I think I found a video where Derek Scott was talking about certain energies that are not supposed to be there. So I think they started this work, like I would say, in the 90s, and now it's developing because these people are still alive, and they're still practicing and they're still working. And I think this kind of work develop as they go in life and they learn stuff. So they add into it. So that was a recent video. He said something like that, and I'm like, okay, what did he mean? That was an attachment? Did he, it was not very clear, but you can tell they kind of like going into that direction. And these people are psychiatrists, so they are they got education in medicine, so they came from a different world. And now they're developing this amazing work and going in this direction. I think that's fascinating.
And so internal family systems and parts work are two totally different things, right?
No, it is the very same thing. Internal family system, it's the same thing, but some people call it parts work if you didn't have the certificate, like if you didn't go through the whole 3 years program, which I didn't. I took a small workshop, small training. So it's very much the same, but some people call it this and some people call it that, and some people, of course, took the main thing and tweak it and add into it, and they add flavors into it, and they do their own practice with it. Renee, you want to say something?
On that note about the internal family systems, with Schwartz is the name, right? The gentleman who teaches this, Schwartz. You actually have to apply to get into the level 1 training, and it's expensive. It's like $3,000, and I think there's 2 or 3 levels of training in internal family systems. You can take the workshops that give you kind of the general overview. I think that you can still use in practice, but to be certified, it's really expensive, and it's extensive training. I think
it's expensive, and it requires that you have a background in clinical psychology and you have a place to practice, because you report back your hours. with clients. I can do that, but I don't have my master's and my bachelor are not in psychology, so that's always on the way. So I'm not qualified to take the training.
Really?
And it takes like, it takes some time. It takes like longer time, but there are small workshops you can take, like you can take.
Right, because that was part of my hypnosis training, was the internal family system. We bought the book, there was a workbook, and then we just kind of went through those basics and understanding it
Yeah,
in
because
connection.
it's not that complicated, actually, in my opinion.
No, it is. It's very similar to parts. It's
It's
great.
yeah, but it's not that complicated, and it's, if you're doing this kind of work that we do, it's actually, it's easier, as opposed to if you're coming from psychiatry work, or coming up from the psychology kind of world. It's kind of different, you know what I mean? Like, we kind
Well,
of
and
know
that's
what to
what
do.
I think that's what the certified training is geared towards, is those certified licensed practitioners, which is why it's so expensive. You know,
Yes.
they make it into this big thing, right?
Yeah.
Where it can be simplified and you can still get what you need, or still utilized by taking the workshops and these other shorter, less expensive trainings. So
Yeah, so you can get all this knowledge, actually, uh, but you're not gonna get the title. I'm not after the title, so I didn't care much about it.
yeah. Just as a side note, you don't have to spend the $3,000 for each module
I know that's
trying to
a
learn
lot of
it.
money, and you have to report back your clinical hours,
Right.
and you have to have a supervisor, and it's, the whole thing.
So on
Where-
that note,
Well, hold
You
on. Where
guys-
do we find those videos though? Those training videos?
It's on YouTube. You
Oh, okay.
can
Okay.
you can search IFS, Internal Family System, and there is this guy. The founder is called Richard Schwartz,
Richard Schwartz.
and there is another guy that I really, really, really love. He's Canadian. It's called Derek Scott.
Derek Scott.
Okay.
Yeah, and Derek has lots of material. Actually, both of them, they already encourage people to read their material. They have a lot of free stuff on the online, and they encourage people to learn about the thing. They say, okay, if you don't need a certificate, just learn about it, because it's good for, if you have kids or if you're dealing with people. It's good to know. It's very important information.
It's so funny, as we're sitting here talking about this, I just got an email from Richard Schwartz saying,
No kidding.
lottery sign up. We're opening up new spaces for the level one
Okay.
trainings. I mean, it's such a moneymaker.
Press reply. Hey,
Wow.
Richard, we're talking about you.
Wow.
How come you don't have a scholarship?
Right?
Right.
Derek Scott out of Canada. He's probably on YouTube as well, huh?
Yes, I like him. Actually, I like him better than Richard Schwartz, because Richard, when you listen to him, he's very monotonous.
Yeah.
So it's kind of put you asleep. It's kind of like, okay, what did I miss in the last hour now?
Yeah.
But the other guy has a lot of sessions online, actually, so you can follow the session and see what he's doing and follow the question. It's a set of questions, and he moves between them. So it's always good to read about it first, and then go and watch what he's doing.
Yeah.
What's
What
his
is
name?
the name of the guy that you like?
Derek Scott.
Derek Scott.
Very good.
So do you have clients come in specifically with the desire to mine and understand these different parts? Or mostly this is just something that you kind of pull out of your bag of tools to know, that, gee, this client, I'm really seeing some little parts and some compartmentalization of these maybe issues formed in childhood, and you go there? Or is it maybe an equal balance between those people wanting to come in specifically for this understanding of their parts, and then, an equal balance of just having the opportunity to employ that during a session. What have you both experienced, Shahira and Shay, in this, and also you too, Renee, when it comes to the employment of this technique? Is it requested for, or is it just part of your bag of tricks?
For me, it just becomes part of like my soul regression. I just take everything I know and I put it all in what I call soul regression. So when the person comes in, then we intuit and sense what the person needs. And so if you have someone that's constantly talking like, part of me didn't even want to come today, and a part of me, then I know
I'm
maybe
telling you.
integrate parts work, so really you have to listen to what they're saying, and then that kind of gets you an idea of where you're going to guide the session. If you have somebody else that's like, I just feel sad all the time, I'm just like, I don't even know where this sadness from, then I know where I need to go to take that, to whatever session I need to do. But I just encompass it all in soul regression. And then when the client comes in, they're not necessarily ever looking for parts work. A lot of them don't even know what parts work is, but it becomes part of the session that you work with that.
Yeah.
In my case.
Yeah, I'm just like Shay, whatever comes up, because most of the time the client don't know what they want. Like they don't come and pick and choose and say, okay, I need hypnosis today, I need parts work today. They just come with, oh, I am sad, or I don't feel myself, or I have anxiety, and fix it. So whatever comes up.
Well, and that's why, like, I appreciate learning this stuff, and that there's ways you can just keep adding to your understanding of how to work. Even with just our introspective hypnosis, it just gives you that broader understanding of really the mind and our personalities, right? The parts of our soul, right? This fragmentation, and how all these traumas and experiences and things in people's lives affect everybody so differently.
Yeah.
And you know what I find too, that it's like I didn't know about parts work. I didn't know about inner child work. I didn't know about any of that work. And it's almost like a client will come in and then I'll have another client, and they're both are all dealing with the same thing. It seems like a week of the same client. And I'm like, wow, okay, I really need to learn more about this. So then I'll go do a lot more research. I'll do a lot of learning. I'll buy books. I'll listen to videos. I just get more learning, because the clients that are coming into me are the clients that are telling me, my guides are showing me, this is something I need to learn more about.
Yeah.
So that's the way it's worked for me, is that just based on what's coming to me. When I first went to introspective hypnosis, I think I shared with you before, I had that client keep wanting me, he kept coming at me like 3 or 4 times, like, to learn to do it this way. And I'm like, no, I was just resistant to it. Finally, when I did, as soon as I got through introspective hypnosis training, all of my clients started having, attachments. I'm like, it's so weird. But before that, it was like, they just kept coming at me, like, you need to do this, you need to do this. So I'm like, okay, so I just follow my guidance. What kind of clients I'm getting, that's what I need to focus on,
Yeah, the learning never ends.
It's beautiful though. And I'm a learner. I love it. That's
Yep.
one of the reasons why I have such a hard time going into the hypnosis, because like, even when I went to have the session with, when I went to have the session with Alba, I am sitting there and my mind is like, how does she do that? What is she saying? That's where I was caught up in it. And so it was really hard for me to just let go and relax and get into it, because I wanted to know what she was doing. I'm learning from her. And so it's really hard for me to shut down that part of my brain. That's a part of me that just wants to learn. It doesn't want to experience, it wants to learn. So I'm constantly learning new things, constantly. So,
Well, we're healers, right? So
Yeah.
these, with the ultimate goal of having in mind helping people really in the energy of healing. Yeah, it's important to kind of follow those lines of kind of if
Of guidance, yeah.
absolutely. When I was a city planner, to your point, Shay, it was like anything that I needed to know about a certain aspect of code would come up within a week span. I'd have 3 or 4 people come to the public front counter or set a meeting with me. And if I didn't know it at first, it's almost like they would keep coming back and coming back with different people. And finally, once I was like, I had command of that particular aspect of the code, then it would stop suddenly. It's like I learned it, but it was the universe coming at me. You've got to learn this. You've got to learn this. So they keep coming at you until you do. So.
Yeah, it's beautiful if we can tap into that guidance and know what's happening, then our guides are going to bring what you need at the moment coming in. And you'll notice too, when you have sessions with people, I'm sure a lot of you experience this, all of a sudden I have all these sexual abuse clients, and I mean, like in the beginning, I didn't understand any of that. I was shocked, to be honest with you, to learn that there is so much sexual abuse out there. Because, what I grew up in, I didn't experience that. I didn't have, I didn't, know anything about that. So when I started having clients like that more, then I'm like, okay, I need to learn about that. And then I have, other people come in who go through a lot of trauma in the war, so then I want to learn it. But it seems like they always come in clumps. It's like they'll come in threes or, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, I get it. It's time to go read up on that or learn more about that, or they all have, daddy issues or mommy issues, but they all come at the same time. So then you do a lot of research at that time.
Yeah, wow, really interesting.
Yeah, it works
I
really well.
love you guys.
Perfect.
Love you guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Love you too. Bye,
Love
guys.
you guys.